Are we all set? Okay, so are we going to do Donna or not? Are we going to have her on or not?
If we make it with her, we're good, but,
You let us know, okay, if she needs to. Okay. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'm being joined, okay, here we go. But Hannah, Aaron Rake, Councilor Councilors, Rashida Caldwell, Sholma Jog, Billy Monto, and Corey Williams. Thank you for joining us. We are about to start our interviews for the vacancy that's available. What we're going to do is we're going to go around the table. Each counselor will ask 2 questions. And if we have enough time at the end and you still want to ask a 3rd question, then that will be the time to do that. We do have one of our counselors, if we are able to figure it out, on a Zoom call. So you let us know when she's ready. Okay. So
do I have time for table setting in the beginning, just an introduction?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so then this will be your time.
Oh, okay, well, there we are. Good afternoon, or I should say good morning. I'm getting ahead of myself. Counselors, many of you I know I've worked with or been in community with in the past and been in conversation with over the last couple weeks, and I appreciated all of those conversations.
Speak to the mic. Speak to the mic.
Speaking to the mic, understood. Yes. I should know this. I'm in the arts and culture.
Just move it right into front of your
Just
face.
move it right in front of me. Got it. Okay.
it would be comfortable.
Right there.
Comfortable, fine, right here.
Okay. Thank you. So my name is Chayla Surratt. I grew up here in Syracuse, New York. I'm a proud alum of the Syracuse City School District, and I also graduated from the College of Visual and Performing Arts at Syracuse University. I've spent the past 25 plus years working in arts and culture with various arts organizations across Syracuse, New York. That is my pride and joy. Also, I've had the privilege of serving on various boards, so the Interfaith Works, Community Folk Arts Center, New York's Council on the Arts. I currently serve on the CNYCF Black Equity and Excellence. I am the program committee chair for the Gifford Foundation, and I also serve on the Downtown Committee and for a statewide commission focused on advancing advocacy for the creative sector. I have notes here in front of me. One thing you'll know about me is I do a lot of homework.
And which high school did you graduate from?
Sorry.
Which high school did you graduate from?
Well, Nottingham High School. Go Bulldogs all the way.
I threw that one out there for
I mean,
you.
you set yourself up. Come on. You're lucky we don't bark right now.
What's wrong with you?
I wasn't going to put that in, but I appreciate the question.
I heard no barking. I'm just going to throw that out.
No, not this early in the morning. The question, I know you have a lot of questions for me, but want to start with one that was asked. I'm smiling because I know my mother is here, and it's one that she posed to me as why? Why run? Why now? Why pursue this common council seat? And my approach to governance is shaped by both experience and family legacy. My grandmother, Ruth McCrae, was a ship fitter in Norfolk, Virginia in the 1970s, and she was the first Black woman president of the Boilermaker Union Local 684. She organized for fair wages, safer work conditions, and contracts reflecting workers' needs. Her leadership taught me that equity is realized through collective action, policy, and accountability, a lesson I bring to public service. The opportunities I have been afforded have prepared me for this council seat. I'm ready to use what I've learned to create opportunity for communities across Syracuse, advancing a vision of opportunity, equity, and growth for a city that stands at a pivotal moment. So the question was also asked, I got the designation yesterday, but there was a party that I was already part of, and that is the party of pragmatism. There's so many different spaces, there are these big ideas, but it's always thinking about how do we think about all the different intricacies of realizing something. Donna has joined us.
Yay.
So she can talk?
Here, we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Okay, so are you set or are you still going?
I have just a little bit more.
Okay.
So just again for table setting, some of the things that I'm focusing on in this campaign will be infrastructure, public service, housing and neighborhood stability, economic and workforce development, protection of undocumented immigrant communities, youth and family support, and of course, arts and culture. Can't get away with not having arts and culture there. So with that, I welcome your questions.
Thank you. So do you want to start, or we can go this way or that way? It doesn't matter. I'll tell you what. Let's start with Donna,
Yes,
who
good
is
plan.
over here. We can't see her, but are we going to be able to hear her? Can she hear us?
She's giving a thumbs up.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Donna, please ask your questions. 2 questions for now. Okay, we can't hear her.
Yeah, I can just barely hear.
Why don't you go to someone else, Councilor?
Okay. So while we set up Donna, let's go to Mr. Corey Williams.
I know when you and I last spoke, kind of the focus of our conversation was around policy. And much of our work here on the council deals with our financial affairs. Kind of the two main priorities are financial affairs and being legislators, passing local laws.
Yeah.
Often policy falls to the purview of the administration. How would you seek to forge that alliance, or how would you approach policy given that we're legislators, not policymakers?
I think that what I would call in here is my experience working with a lot of different boards, right? In that some of this is still remaining in conversation with our constituents and thinking about how do we balance and leverage, our charge to advance policy, of course, within the charge of the city charter, but also making sure that we are in constant conversation and have a healthy tension between the Common Council and the mayor and the other aspects of our legislature here. But I think that it's going to be interesting because we are visioning and thinking about new things in the city. And I think what is interesting is so often, as I have found, and I think I mentioned, is that there are these big ideas, these legislative ideas or policy ideas. And what I focused on and why I mentioned here infrastructure is that I think that foundationally it's thinking about how do we set ourselves up to make sure that we can lean into those apparatus or those policies that are coming from other parts of our legislature.
And I think my second question would just be about your vision. One thing, magic wand, you could immediately change one thing in our city. Where would you go to?
One thing that I would change?
With no restrictions.
With no restrictions.
Yep.
With no restriction, one thing that I would change. I think as a small business owner and being in conversation with different individuals and with the downtown committee, so frequently, as I said, it's the minutia, right? It's those things that are touchstones for individuals in our community. As you said, there are the big policy things that we parse out in this room, but I feel like it's how do we have effective communication internally and externally so that those things that you are working on, there are things that you do hear that the community doesn't necessarily know about. For example, in every room that I am, there is a conversation regarding permits and codes, but I know that you have rolled out a mechanism by which people can track those things. So I think the one thing I would change is an infrastructure that it better communicates the good work and things that you are forwarding here.
Thank you, President Paniagua. Shayla, first of all, thank you for being here and thank you for going through the process that you've gone through the last couple of months. I know how heavy it can be on our personal lives and our energy levels. So as you probably have seen in the news, good cause eviction is at the front of the minds, at least of many of these counselors. That policy, it came up a year ago and was withdrawn and is back in front of us again. It has been couched both in the media and amongst many people as it being a piece of legislation that pits landlords against tenants. And, I will take personal offense to that because I think it's much bigger than that. But my question for you is if you are to be appointed to the council and that is in front of you, how would you vote on good cause eviction?
Oh,
Or how about, want me to rephrase
general
that?
thoughts.
Rephrase.
Yeah, rephrase it.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that type of question could not be asked. How
I
would
can
you?
rephrase. Okay,
cool.
so why don't you tell me how you feel about good cause eviction
you go.
legislation in the state of New York?
Okay. So I think it's interesting too because it's been a long time coming, right? This first conversation was 2017. And I've been watching the spirited conversation online. And first I want to commend you, because I think that is the civic work that needs to be happening, is being in conversation with our constituents about all the nuances, landlords, tenants, and all the infrastructure that will make this an effective policy. And because it is so nuanced, I decided I'm going to write it down so there is clarity. I support the intent of good cause protections. Rents in Syracuse have risen faster than incomes, and nearly 60% of residents are renters who deserve stability and fairness. At the same time, policies must account for the legitimate costs faced by responsible landlords and recognize that housing stability is fundamental to long-term wealth building. Good cause requires balancing the interests of tenants, landlords, and the systems that enforce housing policy. It affects both the housing market and the courts, making strong court enforcement funding for advocacy, funding for advocacy and support services and transparency essential. Leveraging tools like the recently passed LLC Transparency Act can increase accountability while protecting landlords who act in good faith. Small landlords are critical to neighborhood stability and often represent an accessible pathway to first-generation wealth building. Policy should avoid intentionally pushing them out or accelerating corporate consolidation. Passage is only the beginning. Continued engagement and data review and public oversight are essential.
Thank you. I got you the first time I rephrased. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you. So, Shayla, my next question is broader than that. It's in regards to what I think is the biggest part of our job. So we sit here and we do all this business part, looks like a lot of fun, but I think our biggest job is getting out there in the public and actually meeting with people that live in this city that, have the struggles that they have and have the opinions. I think in this national circus that we're in right now, I think we very often we fail to listen. How do you see not just voter engagement, but just engagement with the residents of the city of Syracuse?
It's essential.
What are we doing wrong and what are we doing right and how do we get better?
So it's interesting. So in my work, I said at the top of this conversation that I worked in marketing and public relations. And how I always started that work was, who are your people? Where do they gather? And who is their messenger? Because sometimes it isn't you, right? Who do you identify that is the person that can help offer entree to have real critical conversations in that community? And understand that it might take time, right? And also the other thing, again, knowing that my mom is sitting at the back of the room, is that something she always said is that be leery of those who always will invite you to their house but will never go to yours, right? So I think part of that, wrapping that into civic engagement, is thinking about how do we show up for the community? How do we educate the community? How do we think about, I recognized the other day that my daughter takes social studies, but she doesn't have civics, right? So there's this give and take that we have to do of showing up or making sure that we sit in the gap and that we are being intentional listeners and that we're not doing harm.
Councilor Majok.
Shayla, I want to thank you for raising your hand and wanting to serve, because I think sometimes you don't know until you come to a place like this to know the importance of public service and the amount of sacrifice it takes, right? So I want to thank you for wanting to join the craziness. All right. So thank you for that. My question, I guess, Madam President said that each one of us have 2 questions. My question is around workforce development. What would be one of your policies, or at least a policy that you would support, that is either currently being implemented by the city or something that you would passionately get behind?
I read your resume, so I knew this question was coming. Right. So again, I wrote some things down in conversation with that. I said I like to do homework. With the growth in construction infrastructure projects, advancing manufacturing, and the emerging drone industry, Syracuse has a significant workforce development opportunities. programs that are operated by SUNY EOC, OCC, ONRAP, MACNY, Center State CEO, and community center partnerships are already preparing residents for these careers. But some of these initiatives have been only operating for a few years. The Common Council should work to establish clear benchmarks for success, measuring job placement rates, wage growth, retention, and long-term effectiveness of these programs. Through municipal budget process, we can support effective programs, ensure alignment with employment demand, and prioritize equitable access to that, so that city residents benefit directly from economic growth. I'll also put a plug in because I benefited from in my business in downtown Syracuse, expanding the opportunity to microcapital for small businesses.
I wanted to have a follow-up, but that would burn my question, my second question. So I'm going to leave that. Maybe when I have opportunity later, I'll come back.
Yeah, you have.
My other question is, we are in a very tumultuous times around the treatment of immigrants and perception of immigrants, and the overall feelings or the social feeling, political feeling, economic feeling of who immigrants are. Immigrants are in a times where they need our support, right? And there's a snowball effect in how one group is treated and in how it affects similar groups, right? My question to you is, with such time like this, what do you see, or what effort do you see is the most effective, or at least would help immigrant community at this moment, especially sitting as a counselor?
Okay, I won't touch the technology. I pause because, of course, as you know, this is very personal to me, right? I'm married to a first-generation American, right? My husband, Dr. Imad Rahim, came here at a very young age with his family, a survivor of the Khmer Rouge. And he speaks extensively about coming to a sanctuary city and how he was resourced here and the different communities that mentored him and helped him so that he could lean into his passion so that he could now be the educator that he is today. I want to say that I'm extremely proud of this city. I was proud to sit over at Nottingham High School and hear from our mayor that she is supporting and wants us all to stand for New York State for all. I was proud to see that also echoed here in this chamber. I think that is very important that we continue to amplify those efforts. I also think that I'm very proud to know and have seen the work of the initiatives of Councilor Monto and Councilor Williams around the surveillance and camera the surveillance of our license plates. I think that we need to continue to interrogate systems that make us all vulnerable, right? To that end, I think that in beginning to do research around the work that they were doing, I began to look at different studies. And there are concerns. There are concerns around the use of generative AI, right? In the use of generative AI for the SPD and for our government entities, and how that too can make our private information vulnerable, and by extension, then make our immigrant population vulnerable as well. I think that we first lean into those things that are happening in other places. I had the privilege of sitting on a panel to support and advocate for the RAISE Act, which was a beginning policy about putting some guardrails around generative AI, and thankfully Governor Hochul did pass that. But how do we continue to look at these other legislative places where we can leverage those conversations and amplify and be firm and not waver in that we are a sanctuary city, that we will continue to protect people, and we will leverage all aspects of our legislation to make sure that people feel welcome, supported, and safe.
You all set?
I got 2 questions in.
Thank you. We'll come around again. Shayla, my questions are more around, the work done in council. As someone that is new to council, how would you quickly build policy knowledge, relationships that are needed to make sure that procedures are in place and understood? So how would you how would you go about that effectively? So you could be effective from day one, let's say.
Well, like what I did today, or what I did in preparation here is homework, right? I know that you have study sessions. I know that there's corp counsel. I know that you have your own legal counsel. I know that there are very knowledgeable and skilled people in this building. This is some of the lessons that I've learned from working with Gifford Foundation about succession planning and leaning to those who have more institutional knowledge and asking questions. So in my store in Bank Alley, I often tell people that you don't have to know anything, but you should have radical curiosity. You should be amenable to learning. So I think coupled with doing the homework, I should be okay.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And being the fact that this is a position in the Councilor-at-Large, how would you ensure that your decisions or the way you're approaching legislation would impact the whole city?
I think that goes to the question that was asked earlier regarding community engagement, is that I'm very much aware. So again, working in marketing and public relation, I still have spreadsheets of where the TNT meetings are, where the neighborhood meetings are. You know, having served in the Stratford Neighbor Association, there are a lot of different community groups as well. So I think making sure I'm plugged in and identifying what's most important. And also sometimes too, again, identifying those trusted messengers to bring information to me as well.
Excellent. Thank you. Councilor Caldwell.
So, I'm really upset because they took every last one of my questions. Right, I'm like, you should have started down here. Like, I'm like,
no.
really?
I asked who wanted to go
it's okay.
first.
It's fine. No. So first, I want to say I haven't had a chance to really have a conversation with you, but as a fellow Nottingham Bulldog to Bulldog,
Yeah.
I love this. Right, I love your passion. I
start.
will start. I will bark. I will do all of that because that's what we do. I love the passion. I love the interest. So I only really have one question, and you answered one of the major questions about what drove you and why you want to be and where you're at, right? But the other part is being on a common Councilor-at-Large, we have a diverse group of people, right? Very strong people, passionate people, people who have different backgrounds from different parts of the community. How do you work with others, and like, what is your style? What is your way of dealing with not just us, but then it's also City Hall?
It's interesting. I think that answer partly comes from my organizing days, is that I believe in a participatory process. I believe in deep listening. It brings to mind, so in serving as the program committee chair at Gifford, or in other different spaces, like there are instances in which I realized that I had high absenteeism. And so the onus is on me to understand what is the dynamic, what is going on within that structure, and to figure out how then can I fix it. So I think that also too in a leadership position is not always looking outward, but also trying to understand what are you maybe doing as a leader that needs to be changed to be more effective. I think it's also interesting too that so often, and I think it's speaking to what Councilor Majuk said, is that this notion of difference is bad, right? And so what I've often expressed is that it is necessary to have these diversity of voices and interests at the table for us to actually be of service to the constituents, because we are representing their interests and not our own.
Just want to make sure we have Donna Moore's questions.
Thank you.
Wait, go ahead, you go.
Yeah.
But we'll get to her last.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Did you have
No, I'm done because y'all took my other one, so I just had that last one. So.
Go ahead,
problem.
Councilor Rich.
And I think just as we try to get Donna on, I think the other thing that I'll add to that is that what I also expressed in that group is that the equity is in different individuals being at the table, right? Without that, it can't be homogenous. I think we're working on Donna.
So I have one question,
Yes.
dovetailing off of what Councilor Williams had asked. The city budget is $340 million, excluding the school district's budget. What is the largest budget you've worked with?
The largest budget that I've worked with is, I was part of a initiative called the Creatives Rebuild New York. I was the I was the regional advisor for Central New York and the Finger Lakes. So this is in the height of the pandemic. There was a complete erosion of funding for the arts and culture sector, and so there was a real need to be in service to them. And so my charge was to help be a fiscal steward for It was $125 million for an artist employment and guaranteed income program in which artists could get $65,000 for 2 years, and then the guaranteed income was $1,000 for 18 months. So my charge was making sure, stewarding individuals, artists through that process, but also making sure that the allocations were done properly and efficiently.
Thank you very much.
And I also want to say, and a very interesting point learned in that is that sometimes money can do harm and you have to mitigate it. Because we realized that there weren't individuals leaning into this opportunity and we couldn't figure out why. And ultimately, it means that if you lived in subsidized housing and all of a sudden your income goes up $65K, you have a problem. If you have fixed income and all of a sudden your income goes up $65K, you have a problem. So it's thinking about how do we remain in that participatory process and listening, active listening, when our intention is to do something helpful to make sure that we are not also doing harm.
Thank you. My last question is, do you feel that the Common Council should uphold the will of voters and support an appointment that reflects their votes?
Say that again.
Do you feel that the Common Council should respect the will of voters and uphold an appointment that supports their votes?
Yes, because they represent the interests of those who voted for them.
Thank you.
Is Councilor Moore set?
I have one-
Is she?
One question in here is related to workplace development. She wanted to know, what is your understanding of who is
Okay,
being
you're gonna
left
have to
behind?
speak to the mic. I can't.
What is your understanding of who is being left behind as it relates to workplace development? Thank you.
I think,
And why? I'm sorry.
and why? I think that part of this, that it's a multifaceted conversation, right? I mean, we had a conversation earlier about our new American and immigrant community, and there are digital divides, there are language divides, there are things that have to be mitigated for those who are coming here to our sanctuary city that we have to think about intentionally. It's also thinking about something that came up at the 17th Ward conversation and interview, is that we have to think about our youth, and we have to think about making sure that the coffers within what is within the purview of the Common Council, right? I know our charge is not the Syracuse City School Board, but how are we making sure that we are supporting the youth so that they too can lead into their passions and then have these opportunities in workforce that are coming through Micron and all the other proximity opportunities that'll be coming in the next couple of years.
Excellent. Is that the only question she had? Yes? Okay. Okay. All right. So do we have time for another round? And we do, right? Until what time are we allowed to?
10:50.
Okay. So do you want to? I did ask her.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about, is there, because I know earlier you were able to read, but if there was anything else that you might want.
Oh, that I wanted to share.
Yeah, that you might want to share.
Let's see. Well, I did. Well, it's interesting that you're asking this question because I used to live on Westcott Street, and I know that there was youth programming that you do over the basketball court every summer. And so thinking about that, it was raised here that we're in a very particular kind of political moment, right? That we've seen a retraction of funding at the federal level, and that means that it then does impact programming that are supporting our youth. So I think about that part of the reason that I am here in this seat is I went through the media unit, Metropolitan School for the Arts, ECHO. Okay, I'm aging myself. It's called Westcott Community Center now. The Community Folk Arts Center. So making sure that how do we show up? How do we now show up that the federal government has now slashed a lot of programs? How do we make sure that in this chamber we can make sure that youth are still getting what they need? And it's not just about the youth, right? It's about parents knowing that when they are at work, that their children are safe. We know that a lot of these spaces aren't just about recreation. They're not just about the arts and culture. They're also sites where wraparound services are happening. Lead testing is happening as well. So that's the other thing that I'm thinking about is how do we show up for them? I'm thinking about this nightmare, and that I know that came directly from youth. So how do we lean in and make sure that we are also listening to their concerns as well?
Can I ask a feel-good question?
Ask a feel-good question.
The city gets beat up a lot. It's easy for people to point out our problems versus all the things that are great about it. So my feel-good question is, tell me why you love this city and why you decide to stay here instead of fleeing like many will.
Oh. Why stay here? Is that my mom? Did my mom just laugh?
Your mom's laughing.
I think this is a phenomenal city. It is a phenomenal city. And I have the privilege, because again, I'm situated, my business is situated downtown. I have all the different individuals who live downtown, but also the people who come through for our theater, for the arts and culture and business. And the realities are is that we have a lot to offer. We have to be better at storytelling, right? I think that there are things that we have to work on, but I think that there is so much here. There's a gem here that just needs some polishing. The realities are, too, we moved away for a bit, but you know what? It's very, very cost effective to live here in this city, right? And there are beautiful neighborhoods and beautiful people, and we show up for each other. I know that's the Westcott Nation in me, right? So I think that we're a dynamic city, and we're poised for something pivotal. And the only thing that people ask when they say, well, what about our new mayor, and what about Zamdani, and what about all these things? And what I say is that I think we have to be amenable to error. I think that sometimes we keep having this kind of Sisyphus of pushing up the same rock, right? But we also have to be open to that. Sometimes we're going to throw spaghetti at the wall and it's not going to work, but that means we've learned something and we pivot. So I'm amenable to the city being in a time of transition.
Thank you. Councilor Williams, you wanted to get a question in?
I did. I don't want to take us back down, though. I feel like that was so lovely.
And then you.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I will. So you referenced surveillance technology, and I think that what occurred in Minneapolis kind of laid bare the challenges that we're currently having with the Fourth Amendment in this nation. For a while, myself, Councilor Monto, other councilors have been grappling with surveillance technology and how to effectively utilize it or not in the city. And the other day, as we shifted from one LPR vendor to another, related to concerns around data privacy and maintaining, privacy for our residents, we had individuals in the council chambers that didn't like the concept of LPRs in general. We have to balance public safety and civil liberties. Can you provide thoughts on how you would approach that challenge, and where on kind of the spectrum you might fall?
I did think about this, and it was kind of an extension of the conversation regarding the RAISE Act, FLOC, Axiom contract, generative AI, and I'll share that with you. But I think the realities are is that we lean into data, and we lean into that it is an evolving conversation, because the realities are is that we do want people to be safe, right? But we also want to make sure that we are interrogating, as you, our counselors, are doing, interrogating these contracts to make sure that indeed they are not sharing information that will make individuals in this community put them in harm's way. But I'll read this only because I know it's much more succinct. As a common councilor, I'd push for a continued cautious approach to the use of generative AI and technologies, particularly in our infrastructure. Any deployment must include strong guardrails, prevent misuse of data, data mining, data scraping, protect individual privacy, and address the risk of algorithmic bias that can disproportionately impact vulnerable communities. And I thought of that because I remember being in conversation. I don't know if people remember that when they first had technology where doors would open, that because it had been graphed only onto white faces, that people were walking and the doors weren't opening because there is algorithmic bias built into this technology. So national and civil liberties organizations have raised concern that unregulated AI in official reporting systems can embed bias, introduce factual error, and undermine transparency. Requiring human review, impact assessment, and civil rights auditing protects both residents and the integrity of our government functions. So I would say we need to continue interrogating these systems. I would also say, too, I don't know, I would like to know more and learn more, but in the conversations that I have had with people in the community is that there is a call for more time and space to be in conversation with you around these issues.
Thank you. Councilor Majok, you wanted to ask a question?
And Shayla probably know this was coming. I said earlier that I'm going to follow up on the workforce development question. And for the years that I have been in workforce development, one of the criticism that I have heard in the workforce development I have also experienced is this idea that we help people get into training programs. And once they get into training programs, they get certificates. And this is specifically at the very grassroots of it. Once they get into training program, they get certificates. And then when it's time to capitalize on that certificate, as it was the intent of the investment, there is no outlet. There is no opportunity to really apply the theory that was just given to them, right? And in this city, we keep investing, we keep putting the state, the federal, the city, county, everybody, there's a whole bunch of avenues where resources are coming from to getting poured into training programs. And that in itself is problematic. So I want to go back to your metric approach that you said earlier. What does a good metrics of workforce development look like? And in terms of for us as a city, and have you seen any of it that has worked tangibly?
I mean, I think I'll return to the answer that I gave earlier, some of it, and that some of these programs are still relatively new. My question would be, is that, are there benchmarks? Are there mandates regarding ROI? Are there assessments built in surveying? Is there a circling back? So I think often, so I hear the question regarding, but I guess it's that, are we then having a structure that already mandates that those particular entities, organizations, or projects, initiatives require reporting? I think so often, again, it comes to that big idea. We have a big idea, we roll something out, the certificate program, it's going to show up in community this particular way, but we didn't also set up an infrastructure of sustainability and a metric of accountability. So I think that would be the answer, is making sure that if we're going to have these opportunities, to then make sure that indeed there's also career tracking. I think so often that there's this other thing too, that in these different rooms, yes, we want to have an expansion of workforce development and opportunities, but I also think we need a diversification too, and so that people can also have other opportunities. So I think for me, my question would be back to the council, is that when these opportunities roll out for these certificate programs or similar, are there already built in to them metrics of accountability, reporting, and data?
Are there any, you want, yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So, first I want to say your energy is awesome, right? And I think it's from the Bulldog life, right? So,
Something special. Something special about
no,
Bulldogs.
but one of the things that I will say that as a common council at large, right, the passion I had when I first came in, right? And I'm just going to reflect it on me, then I'm going to give it back to you what it was. I was like, I'm going to do A, I'm going to do B, this is what C going to do, I'm going to change the world, I'm going to bring youth, I'm going to help HR, I'm going to help the infrastructure, DPW. I had all these visions, right? Because, you know, I had something that I had been watching and studying, working in the community, been a part of, you know, historical things in this community all my life, considering my family, right? But when I got on the council, I realized that my two pieces that I really only could help control was legislation, right, and financial pieces, right, which sort of put me in a big shock, like, whoa, right? And then I had to realize that not only that is, there was a 9-party body, including the president, that now we have our own group of which are going to be on fire, as if you were on DPW or fire or finance, whatever it is. How in that process, right? And I'm asking this because I think you are very, very, very intelligent, and I think you're very passionate, right? I see you, okay? I want to tell you. How do you look at that as a common council at large? How do you address that and still be able to deal with doing the work, right? Because the actual, what the community thinks we can do versus what we really can do and what is our actual task in the charter to do are like this, right? Without saying it. So
You're making me worry over there. Corey's laughing.
And this is kind of where I was going with that initial
because
question too.
Like, when I tell you, I'm like that too. Like, I'm on go time, right? Like, again, I think that was how we were, part of it, right? I'm not gonna say it again because they get mad over here, but the Bulldog thing. But how do you, how do you feel about that?
And are you asking about balancing time or balancing?
Not time, balancing
Passion and reality.
passion, because you're
And
passion,
reality.
and reality.
Oh, that's easy.
versus-
I'm a business owner, right? I mean, there's a difference between, when people come into the store and they're like, oh, this is amazing. Are you a hobbyist or are you an entrepreneur? I clean this store. I do taxes, right? There's the reality of the work, and of course, there's the passion. And you have to have a balance between the two. But I also think it's about mitigating expectation, right? Sometimes you have to tell people, listen, there's the minutia of the job, right? And I know, because I've seen people yell at all of you online when the snow doesn't happen or the garbage doesn't happen, right? There's the minutia of the everyday, and then there's a larger expectations of things that you have to do, right? Like one of the things that I didn't get to talk about, which is very exciting, is that at 4 o'clock, right, Pam Hunter is going to be at caucus talking about I had it written down here, is the Lead Replacement Act, right? And she's going to be in conversation about the release of those funds. And so there's all these kind of infrastructural things that can happen here at the Common Council level to make sure that we're ready. Pragmatism, right? To make sure that it's efficient once it arrives, right? Because we have 600 Black children a year, 600 children, Black children a year, who are disproportionately affected by this. So I know you hear my passion, but guess what? It also means going out. Someone here asked me about and being in community and saying, this is going to take till 2037. 2037. We want to deliver something that's going to reduce harm. We also have to make sure that we're in conversation about what it's going to look like along the way. So I think, I don't know how to reduce my passion.
Oh, never reduce it. It wasn't, never. I would never tell you that because that is, no one can ever tell me that.
Yeah.
I'm going to walk with my head up and I'm going to have that same energy. Never that. I was never saying. I was just saying, like, what is your thought process? Because when you actually get in the seat, if that's what the will is, and it's just the reality versus sometimes the actual work that we actually have the ability to do in the charter, and that we can actually do without also disrespecting our other counselors, right?
And this is something that I've navigated in working on boards, right? There are you have to be, there are so many times, it's hard. It is hard, right? There are things that have come before, boards that I've sat on, it is not mission aligned. So much like you have a charter, it is not within the purview of what we do within this organization, right? So you have to think about, yes, we are passionate about this thing, but what other avenue? Where can I direct you and be resourced elsewhere? Because this is not within our charge. And I've seen it also happen as well, again, that people have come in and they've had conversations with you, or they're upset with you, or they're upset in other spaces. I'm like, but that person doesn't do the thing that you think they do. Right? So we can mitigate some of that through education, particularly around civic engagement.
So we've come I'm sorry.
I'm okay.
Are
I'm
you all
okay.
set?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So we've come to 11:15. We're going to give you a couple minutes to make some closure, and then we'll have to move on. So go ahead. If there's anything else you wanted to say that we didn't ask.
I think the only thing is I had a question for all of you. I know that some of you are new to the council and you have been here for a while. But what has been most moving, or what has been most important to you in this role?
I like hanging out with Rashida.
There you go.
Honestly, this has been the most exciting amount of information about local government than I have been able to access. And I feel on a daily basis like I'm redoing my master's thesis, and that's not the fun part. But the fun part is taking this information, being able to talk with people about it, and really synthesizing what the needs of the community are with the different weighted perspectives on how we should go about fulfilling those needs. And honestly, it's been a tremendous and exciting experience so far, and I'm looking forward to the next 4 years.
One of my biggest pieces of being on a common council is being a voice for those who can't be a voice, but also being able to go back and I'm big on youth, right? So being able to go back in places and spaces and prepare our young people for what's next and making sure they get the message. Because a lot of times they're our deliverers to our families, right? They're the ones that are talking to their parents, or they're up next, right? We know that what was going on in our climate and our world, right? So making sure that they're involved, making sure they know what's going on, what's next, being a voice for them, but also just being there, showing up for them and letting them say, I hear you, I see you. I might can't change it, but it's taking note, and I'm coming back to the places and spaces. And that's for their entire 139,000 people in the city of Syracuse.
I'd say that, the years that I've been here, like Rashida was saying, it's all about bringing that voice of the most challenged to the table that would probably, if we're not representing them, and they will never be heard. So that's super important for me. And the other thing is being able to really work with my colleagues and the city to find solutions to things that would be enhancing the quality of life of our residents.
It was, for me, it was very hard getting here, right? And what for me, getting here in itself, just to sit here, it's a statement in itself. It's for me, it proves that tenacity has a space. And going back to what Rashida and Rita said, as well as Councilor Anna, there more is said without saying, right? So for me, it's paving the way, being here, creating a space where people, when they look up, they see. You don't have to tell them what is possible. And that tenacity has the ability to get you there. And that has been very fulfilling for me.
To fortify, I think, what Councilor Caldwell, the place that she was going, talking about walking in here with the passion that you're going to change the world. And, I'm a studier of American history and a lover of politics. And when you come, you have to run for these offices to get here, and you have to talk about politics, and you have to talk about what is right for voters. It has changed how I talk about politics now locally, because once you get here, it has become very clear to me how much the minutia of someone's day matters to them, and how important it is for a constituent to actually get contact with their elected representatives. The idea that someone would say, I called 6 times and I couldn't get Jimmy Monto, keeps me up at night, because they're going to get me, because that's what I believe in. I woke up this morning at 7:16 a.m. to a phone call that was a Buffalo number. And if this woman is watching this, I hope you got your cat taken care of. But she had a kitten in her backyard, and she didn't know how to rescue it. She needed a cat carrier because she was allergic. And literally all I did was make another phone call to a cat lady in the neighborhood who went to her house with a cat carrier and got. That might seem like the smallest scale thing to so many people, but to her, I picked up the phone. And I'm forever different how I talk to people that want to run for office. When they call me as the chair of the party and say, I really want to get involved, my conversations are exactly what Rashida just said. You're going to come in here swinging for those fences, but let me tell you something. You know what your call is going to be? Some lady's got a kitten in her backyard, and you better figure out how to get that cat out of there. So.
I'm going to admit something publicly that I didn't think that I was going to admit. I cry at every swearing-in ceremony that I go to. I do. It's often an opportunity to reflect on the weight and the gravity of the job that our elected officials are being asked to do. And it has truly been a privilege to sit up here with such a passionate and committed group of people that don't always agree, but we agree on one thing. We agree on the idea that our government can make life better for our constituents. And we might have, different pathways on how we get there, different thoughts and perspectives. But at the end of the day, we all believe in the institution. We believe in our city. We want a better Syracuse moving forward. And I think that, what I'm fortunate to be able to say is that the depth of relationships that I've been able to forge within my community, my neighborhood as a district councilor has been really special. And I think that dealing with the minutia, you gain an appreciation for, you know, the rhythm of life in our neighborhoods that is much different than you've probably ever been able to see before.
I hope that cat's not on my porch right now, by the way, so you know.
Did Donna have
All
something
right,
to offer?
in the interest of time, we have to
Just
move
check
on.
in with
Oh,
Donna.
Yeah, we're behind.
Yeah, she's good. She says she's good. Thank you.
Are we all set? We done?
All set.
Okay, so thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you, all of the councilors, for all your questions and engagement with Shala. So we're going to conclude this meeting. Motion to adjourn.
So move.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.